Hey everyone, it's Alex with the Salt and Light Realty, and I'm here with our friends from End Pest Control. We're gonna talk pest prevention and inspections today. So, can you introduce yourself and share a bit of your background and experience in pest control?
Of course. Did you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So, because everyone talks to me first. So, my name is Shania Faji, and I am the admin coordinator for Top End Pest Control. So, I run the front office, and I deal with the one-on-one with our customers, the initial intake, and I like to help people. So, doing pest control helps us help you protect your home, and then it also helps to have our techs in the field that get to help you as well.
Today I'm Sean Dakanai. I've been a lead technician with Top End for about 5 years now. I got into this field because I enjoy helping people out and being able to ensure that we protect their home.
Nice, thanks guys. I'm so happy to have you both here, and I'm excited to share with our viewers everything that you guys do and how you can help them. So can you explain why termite and wood destroying insect inspections are important for real estate transactions?
Sure. So, as we all know, when you are doing real estate transactions, you're either purchasing or selling your property, right? So whether you're on the buying end or the selling end, you want to get an inspection done so you can pretty much be thorough with what you're purchasing, and you can get all the breakdowns of whether there is damage, whether there is termite activity. You can even get some advice on whether there's been a previous treatment, which would indicate previous activity or some kind of situation on the home. So getting an inspection also on the buyer end for VA transaction, it is a requirement. So with that being said, it is something that is required, but it also is good to just do so you can see the transparency of your transaction and what it is that you're pretty much going to invest in.
Yeah, awesome. How can termite damage impact a property's value and structural integrity?
So in Guam, many of our homes are made of concrete, which is pretty termite resistant, but termites can still make their way throughout the home and get to all of the wood areas such as door frames, kitchen cabinets, outside storage closets, which can become costly, I would say.
So, Sean, can you walk us through the process of a termite and pest inspection?
Sure. So how we usually start is I would do a walkthrough along the exterior to make sure to see if there was any previous termite preventatives. And then after that, it would be a walkthrough inside the home just to make sure there are no wood destroying insect damage. So pretty much taking a look at all the wood, making sure there's no damage and evidence or signs of termite damage. And yeah, that's pretty much how we do it.
So what are some signs if there were a treatment already done previously?
So there are two types of preventatives that we would look out for. Either there would be the green bait centricon stations in the ground, and those are pretty easy to identify. If they don't have that, the other things we would look out for would be drill marks. So drill marks around the home that would indicate a chemical injection around the exterior of the home.
Awesome. What areas of a property are typically inspected, and what do you look for during the inspection?
Okay. So the areas that we typically mainly look at would be like the kitchen, door frames, pretty much anywhere there's wood. And what we're looking out for is, any staining. So like mud tubes, that would be an indication of subterranean termites. And then as well as any type of wings or frass, which is droppings from drywood termites. Yes, and then another wood-destroying insect that we do look out for that isn't too common on Guam is a powder post beetles. And the way you can indicate that, you would see small holes in the wood and then fine-like texture, like powder pretty much. And that's how you know they got into the wood.
Cool. So what is the more common type of termite that you see when you're out in the field?
I would say, so subterranean and drywood termites are both very common only because of the climate here on Guam. It's a tropical island, so it's whenever there is humidity, it's common for those type of pests to come out.
Okay, thank you. How can homeowners recognize early signs of an infestation?
So early signs of an infestation, pretty much going back to what I was saying earlier with, mud tubings and then any signs of the frass, which almost looks like, I would say, sawdust or sand. And then you would see hollow points of the wood and What else? I think that pretty much covers it on how you could identify if you have those type of pests in your home.
I think one of the only ways I'm able to identify, or like the telltale sign for me, is when you see kind of like the sand or
Yes.
frass. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
And then another thing too is when we have the swarming seasons, which is usually when it's raining, how we're in right now in this season, there's an on and off again rain all throughout. So with that, there's a lot of swarming going on where they'll leave their nest and go and try and find a new place to build a colony. So another sign is if you see dropped wings, that usually indicates that something has come in. Sometimes it could be ants, sometimes it could be termites, but if you see dropped wings, that usually indicates that an insect has nested somewhere where the wood is.
What treatment options are available if termites or wood destroying insects are found during an inspection?
So during an inspection, it would really depend on what the techs find out there. If they find subterranean termite damage or activity, then that would be a different treatment versus drywood termites, because they are both termites, but they're treated very differently. So if you do have drywood termite activity, you can either remove the affected wood, or if you do want to get a treatment done, we do inject directly into the wood, and then there are some repairs the homeowner or their maintenance would have to do to ensure that there isn't further infestation. But if you do have a subterranean termite issue and you do need to treat the activity, then like Sean was saying earlier, there's a chemical treatment option or a bait station option. If you have active termites currently at the house, we usually recommend a chemical option for the treatment, but those are the two treatment options that we provide for overall protection of the home.
So what do you all have in your house to prevent termites and other pests?
In my home, I have chemical injection. I would say that's always the best because it's like a physical barrier protecting the home. Bait stations are good too, but sometimes it's a hit or miss because the termites do tend to sometimes ignore the bait station and then just make their way into the home.
Which we do get a lot of.
Yes.
A lot of people will be like, why do I have termites if I have a bait station, protection around my house? And I'm like, well, they're installed every 15 feet apart. So you have a 15-foot window of where the termites can go, between the bait and kind of deter away from that. So sometimes we do have that occur, and that's why usually if you have active termites, we recommend the chemical treatment. The bait station is more for like if you just want to prevent the activity.
So if you're thinking of installing like a wood closet, let's say outside, right, that's more susceptible to termites accessing it, or maybe like build a tree house for your kids, like what is there a specific wood you recommend using, or can you just use any old wood and then put your bait station, or like what do you recommend?
Definitely, we would recommend, I would say, pre-treated wood. That would always be your best option. And then you would also make sure to have the entirety of the wood thoroughly painted. We usually recommend coating it with latex paint. That's what's best, I would say. Termites have a harder time getting into that.
What preventative measures can homeowners take to reduce the risk of termite and pest infestations?
Okay, so depending on what what part of the process you are, if you're building your house, I would recommend getting a pre-construction treatment, because that means they'll spray the whole ground before actually building the structure. But if you are buying the home and there hasn't been any treatment done, I would recommend looking into preventative measures, just so that if you're going to invest, $500,000 into a home, you could maybe do a couple thousand just to make sure that your $500,000 investment isn't going to get eaten up and destroyed in the next year or so, and then you could do some prevention with keeping in mind the materials you're going to use when you're going to renovate or fix your home. A lot of people like to go with wood, but like Sean was saying, if you are going to use wood, it would be best to protect it with latex paint or use treated wood. Or if you want to just make sure that the termites can't eat it at all, use something that isn't wood, like metal or plastic, or some people like to use they'll use like metal doors or something like that, and that usually will help too. They may travel on it, but they can't eat it, so that's the best part.
Are there specific practices or maintenance tips that can help protect a property from pests?
We handle all types of pests. So with prevention, if it's just general pest maintenance, I would say sanitizing is really, sanitation is very important. Keeping the house clean, not leaving out food and snacks, vacuuming, sweeping, that type of stuff. But if you do tend to have roach activity, I always tell the customers that they could be coming from your drains, especially in condos or apartments. Everything's all connected, so it would be best to cover your drains if you are dealing with like ants and roaches, they do tend to kind of get a little bit crazier when it's dry and then when it's really wet. So also keep that in mind, keeping your windows and your doors closed, because any access point will of course let them into the house. And then a good thing the techs always say in the field is, if you, when they're doing assessments or looking around properties, if you see direct sunlight coming into your house, that means a bug can get in. So always look around, make sure your ceiling, your sills around the windows and everything are good, and that should keep everything out.
And like the door should have like a weatherproof
A weather strip,
strip, yeah.
yes.
How about flies? Do you guys have anything for flies?
Yeah, so with flies, is it for like a residence?
Yeah, for a residence. Like,
Okay.
I just feel like flies are inevitable, and especially when you're like a Chamorro family. Like,
Fiesta.
yeah, every time we have like a gathering, there are always flies, and it doesn't matter like what you do, to me it seems.
Yeah, so here in Guam, we're always farming, or we always have animals, right? So flies are attracted to food or feces usually. So with having that around, that's what we'll bring them. Or if you have mango trees in your yard and all that, they all drop and rot.
Or the breadfruit.
Yeah, that's another popular one too. So what
Yeah.
we do, if it's a residential issue, we do have fly bait. So with fly bait, you can sprinkle that out in your yard, and it is safe. And all that the flies just eat it, and then it poisons them and they drop. So that's something you can also do if you guys are looking for more like prevention on your outdoor kitchen or something. There is a device called a fly light, where you can actually put that up around your home, and it just looks like a little decorative light, but there's a sticky board in there that the flies will get attracted to and stick to it, and you just change it out.
Oh yeah.
So that's what we actually use for people who are like commercial customers. So that's something that kind of aesthetically fits into the facility without the customers being like, oh, there's a whole fly trap over there. So that's something that we use for flies.
So how does a termite and pest inspection fit into the real estate transaction process?
So with that, it fits into the transaction process because, one, if you're, like I said earlier, if you're going through a VA loan, it is a requirement, and the VA will require that your report essentially comes back clean, meaning there was nothing found, your house is in perfect condition. But there are a lot of cases where, the lenders will require it. Sometimes the buyers will be like, oh, I don't really need it, the sellers will be like, I don't really need to pay for that or all that. But it is important, because if you're selling your home, you want to be transparent, you want to be thorough about everything, and you want to have some sort of integrity in selling your property and show that, oh, this is what I've done to maintain my home. If you're buying it, you want to make sure your investment and your money is going into something that is, worth your money. You're not buying something that has hidden damage, or that you're going to later have to fork out more money to repair or replace and stuff like that. So I think on both ends it's important, because one, it provides transparency, and then I think on the seller's end, it also can provide some integrity in just showing that you cared for this thing that you're going to sell off to somebody else.
And I think as a real estate agent, that really means a lot for our buyers and sellers. Like, buyers want to feel that they're purchasing a home that, like, they can trust that, was taken care of, and they don't have to worry about any issues moving forward. Or, like, besides your regular, like, the ACs are gonna need to be replaced eventually, and any of those appliances. But for the most part, like, the structure itself is, sound.
Yeah. You want to upkeep the structure, because that could be the more expensive repairs versus appliances or electrical stuff. The structures, that's a lot of money. So if you're going to pay $500,000 for a home, you want to make sure that that home is going to stand for some time.
Exactly. And I think really to like the most important thing with that is just the maintenance, right? So it's important, I think, for anybody who's looking to sell their home in the future, even if it's like just a slight possibility, they should just keep up with the maintenance, right? That way it's not a huge problem that costs more and more money if they just keep ignoring it, right?
True. Yes, you want to
Especially with
maintain it.
termites, because they are relentless.
Yes, and termites are known as the silent destroyers. So they could be there eating your home, and you won't even know unless you have a professional come in and say, hey, you have something going on here that needs to be addressed. Sometimes people won't even know what it is until someone comes out there and is like, oh yeah, you have termites.
Yeah. What should buyers and sellers know about addressing pest control issues during a transaction?
So if, like I was saying, with the VA, it is required that the report be clean. So if you do have any issues found at your inspection and it is going through the VA, then there are options, of course, like Sean was mentioning earlier, the treatment options that we can provide you. Our company specifically, if you are going through a VA transaction, we try to do our best to help you get a clean report and give you advice on the options that are available to you. So if there are some things that come up, of course, we will let the agents know, or whoever the customer is. So between that and in the conversation of who's going to be responsible, that at that point can be up to the buyer and the seller to negotiate, or with the agents, on who wants to be responsible for paying for the treatment, or should the seller pay for it so that the buyer doesn't have to worry about it, or is the buyer going to take the preventative measures once they purchase the home. So that's things that they tend to kind of work out once they get the information back from us in our inspection.
What are some common misconceptions about termite inspections and pest control?
Ooh, I like this one. That it's not needed. A lot of people think pest control is not needed. A lot of people think inspections are not needed. But as all the information we've been giving you, it is actually very important. And I know here in Guam, the bugs we gotta get comfortable with the bugs. It's like, oh, it's just a roach. It's not, it's not an issue. But when you think of cleanliness, when you think of upkeeping value, those are things you want to have in place, because it does help prevent them from becoming an infestation or ruining your home or damaging or dirtying your home. So with things like that, I would say it's just that people think it's not important, but it is important. And they think that if you have it being done, you're dirty. But it's not necessarily the case. It's trying to prevent that from happening. And with inspections, a lot of people think, oh, it's just bugs. I don't need to get my house inspected for that. I think they would be more like, I need to get an actual home inspector, right? But then the home inspector is going to come in and be like, you have termite damage. So it would help to kind of get one step ahead of the home inspector, because essentially that's going to tell you the overall value and equity of your home when he comes in and tells you what's wrong or what needs to be fixed. So having us come in before you do all that kind of helps you kind of get a step ahead of, oh, I have this to address. Let me get that taken care of before I pay $500-$600 to get this whole house inspected, and then I end up not failing, but there's more things that I have to address.
If a homeowner hasn't taken any maintenance, right, like preventative measures throughout the duration that they've owned the home, do you recommend, like, if they're looking to sell, that they would do you guys offer like pre-inspections or something like that before they put their house on the market, or do they just contact you to, like, what would they?
So if you guys need an assessment done, so an assessment is different from an inspection. An inspection is us coming out there and pinpointing the issues of the home with wood destroying insects and noting it down so that it goes to all the parties in the transaction deal. But with an assessment, it's really just us coming out there and saying, this is what you have, and these are some things that you need to do to either prevent it, fix it, or like if it's drywood termites, just get rid of it and that'll take care of your problem. So with us, we try to come out there and help you identify the problem, but we also try to give you solutions on how you can help or get rid of those issues. So with that, I would say, yeah, homeowners might want to consider having us come in and do an assessment if they're trying to get, their property on the market. If there's no issues found at the time, or your house is good at this moment. And we always say at the time of the inspection, because anything can always change. So with that, it would help to have us come in, and you can kind of see it that way. You can be like, oh, I don't really need a treatment. There's nothing really going on in the house right now. But if you're like, oh yeah, there's some subterranean termite activity outside, I might want to get a treatment done. And it might not even be outside on your house. It could be outside on a rotting tree stump. It could be on your plants. It could be on your avocado trees, your mango trees. But that tells you that they're somewhere on the property. And if we don't know where they are, we don't know how close to the house they are. So having us come out and kind of tell you things you might not know about will kind of help you be able to determine what might be the best step for protecting your home.
So in an assessment, you guys will also go around the property and look at things that aren't necessarily part of the home, like the structure itself, but also like if there are any wooden things around on the property?
So with the assessment, the main focus would be the home, but sometimes the techs will find some activity like on plants and stuff. If it's subterranean termites, that will usually kind of still raise a concern, because if it's near the house, then eventually they could make their way to the structure. So when you guys go out, right, we mainly focus on the house for the assessment,
Yes,
but you guys
definitely.
also walk around, and sometimes if you see a plant with subterranean termite activity, we don't just ignore it and be like, it's not a part of the house, so we're not going to say anything. But we do try to tell people, like, you have a tree out there, a tree stump that has some termite activity, and you might want to address that, especially if it's live activity. We had an instance, there was one house you guys did where he didn't necessarily have issues at the house itself, but he had some tree stumps in his yard that were rotting and the termites were eating that up. So he'd call us and he'd be like, hey, I need you guys to come out and address it because they're getting closer and closer to the house. So that's the type of things that we also consider too. So it is mainly focused on the house, but just knowing what we know about termites, if there's other things around it, we try to tell you too.
That's nice. I like that. You're always looking out for the best interests of your customers, right?
Oh yeah, we have to. We
Yeah.
have to. It's so important, especially in a service like this where they're depending on you for your professionalism and your experience. We have to be thorough and we have to be honest. It's what separates, most businesses from people who are just trying to take your money.
Yeah. And it is a lot of times, I think, the biggest investment that people make, right? Their home.
Yeah, and it's where you spend most of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are your assessments free, or do you charge for them?
Our termite assessments are free. Yes, the inspections are not, but if it is an assessment, then it is free. The only difference between an assessment and an inspection is you don't get anything documented on the assessment unless you're actually requesting a quote. So that's all you get from us. That's the differences in an assessment and an inspection. An inspection, you actually need the form, and we provide you the form from the National Pest Management Association. So with that form that you can give to your lender, the buyers, the sellers can sign it. So that's something that we provide you for inspections. But yeah, assessments are free. You can call us at any time for an assessment.
And an assessment, that's like anybody, any homeowner, renter, can reach out to you anytime and kind of get an idea of what you recommend, if there's anything, even hopefully not, knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
No, wood with no termites.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much anybody can call us. We also try to make ourselves available on multiple platforms. So if anybody, we always tell our customers, if you have photos, if you see something in your house, take a picture of it before you clean it up, before you touch it, and send it to us. And then we have our team that we can try and identify it for you. So sometimes I'll get photos and I'll send it to the techs in the field, and I'm like, hey guys, does this look like subterranean termite activity? Do you think this is active? Whatever. And then they'll give me their feedback, and that's how we kind of help our customers identify it before they freak out, because it kind of gives them peace of mind before sometimes we can get out there. And I'll just tell them, it's okay, just leave it, don't disturb it. The tech will come out there and address it with you when your assessment schedule comes up.
Are there any unique factors or challenges related to termite and pest control in Guam?
I would say it's a year-round thing.
Yes.
Compared to the States. Mm-hmm. So in the States, there's the 4 seasons, right? So bugs will tend to be dormant or not so active in the colder seasons towards about this time of the year, right? Here in Guam, we don't have weather's set up like that, season set up like that. It's constantly raining, it's constantly hot, it's constantly humid. So the bugs are thriving all year round, which means you probably would need more pest inspections, you'd probably need more frequent treatments all throughout the year, and then probably if your house has termite activity or just prevention, protection, or previous activity, you probably might have to upkeep your services and maintenance a little more frequently, just because of how we're constantly active with termites. And then also too, where you're located on the island, some places are more fertile than others with the soil. So the more fertile the soil is, the higher chances of having active termites in your on your land or something like that too, is also another thing to consider here.
I know earlier in one of your answers to one of my questions, you mentioned that the pests really thrive, or there's a lot of activity when it's either hot or rainy, because they're like moving, right, from one home to another, and they're making their home somewhere else, right? Depending on how the weather changes. And I forgot to mention, but I was like, that's like every time, like all day, every day in Guam. Yeah, it's either hot or it's raining.
Exactly. So you'll either have it where they're just trying to force their way in the house because of all the rain outside, or because it's really, really hot and dry, they're trying to find food and water. So they'll tend to try to find their way towards your sinks. You'll start to see ants on your kitchen sinks. The roaches will come up and kind of go like by the drains or your plumbing. So things like that are also things to consider, how the weather is currently and how that will affect your pest activity or your treatment overall.
Do you guys deal with snakes?
Not too much.
often.
I would say that is more towards like the Department of Agriculture. You know, they have all the traps set up along the fences here on Guam, so that leans more towards them, I would say.
But we can help you with rodents, which will eventually help you with snakes.
Do you guys have any final tips or advice for our viewers regarding pests, termites, anything that you guys take care of on a daily?
My advice would just be, don't be afraid of pest control, because growing up on Guam, I never thought that it was something that was important or something that was needed. You know, you kind of just grow up and you're like, oh, the bugs are normal. It's just a roach, it's an ant, it's whatever. But after working in pest control, after learning about bugs, how they behave and the damage that they can do, I really wish people would have a different perspective on pest control, because it's not necessarily that you're dirty or that it's gross. We do deal with gross things, but it's to help you overall protect your home, your health, the safety of your family, and your overall comfort space. We want to provide you a peace of mind with the job that we do, and I think that a lot of people tend to think that it's gross and it's dirty, and it can be, but it also has its benefits.
Like restaurants frequently need to get
Yes.
pest control done,
Yes,
right?
and that's something I wish people wouldn't get so shocked about. It's like, oh, that restaurant, they get pest control every month. Well, yeah, because you don't want to eat somewhere that's dirty. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're dirty, but you can't control bugs. And so by having us come in to help you protect your establishment, it overall gives your customers a better experience.
And it's preventative rather than...
Yeah, it's preventative, and then so how our treatments work for general pests is it's residual. So the techs will go out and they'll spray it. The bugs come and they pick it up. They eat the bait, take it back to the nest. But with our services, we also are there to support you if you do have an infestation. Sometimes the infestations don't necessarily come from you, but it can come from your neighboring businesses. It can come off of the delivery truck when you get your goods and stuff. So we're just there to support you and help you identify the issues or what could become an issue, and then help you take that without having any fears, and having professionals back you up, essentially.
Great, I love that. How can potential clients get in touch with you if they have any questions or need an inspection or assessment?
Oh, perfect. So I will be the one that you'll be talking to. You can give us a call at 671-487-5657, or you can email us at topendpest@gmail.com, and we're also available on WhatsApp.
Great, and we'll have all of that information linked in our description too, so that you guys can get in touch with them easily. But yeah, any final thoughts you guys like to add that maybe I didn't ask you about?
I think I'm all good.
You think you're all good? I'm all good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I hope our viewers did too, but you guys are great, and thank you.
Thank you as well.
Call us if you ever want any educational tips.